jobs, I have seen this over my career. There again, it's an incentive that applies to businesses that are expanding, or you're starting a new business. So if you're bringing a totally new manufacturing plant or totally new operation to a community or to the state of Louisiana, and you want to apply for these for the quality job assistance, it's basically from what I read this morning, 4% of the wages for a job that has a pay rate of at least $18 an hour, and 6% if the pay rate is $21.66. So, if it's a higher paying job, the quality jobs credit also may have some health insurance requirement. That was one that was added some years back. But this is cash, so it's a big benefit in the sense of your business. If you're in the business, the nature of your business is such that you're creating jobs, so it might not be the one that has the big capital investment. It's just one that, hey, I need people to do a particular service or provide a particular function within my business organization. Then quality jobs is certainly one to look at. And as I said, it's cash. You'll file a bunch of reports and all those kinds of things to back it up. But the state kicks in money to help you pay those salaries.
And honestly, I think I would even say this is probably the most lucrative incentive because it is it's direct cash.
Right.
Most of the incentive programs, ones I can think of, I think most of them are tax credits. I think this might be one of the only ones that gives you a rebate. And that Mr. Tim hit right on the head as far as the wage requirements. There's another, I guess on top of that is other options. In addition, either you do the wage requirements like that, or you create 5 new direct jobs with a payroll of at least $225,000, collectively, or 15 new direct jobs with a payroll of at least $675,000 collectively. And that's in addition, or the hourly wage. And the health insurance requirement, that was added after, I think when Obamacare went into effect, it became a requirement. And they have other eligibility requirements that you can do to see if you're eligible for it, whether the type of business that you're in, percentage of sales in the state, what's the service that you do if you're a subsidiary of a parent company. That's really case-by-case basis. And in addition to the payroll rebate, you can also receive the 1.5% project facility expense rebate on the total capital investment. But I mean, when you look, I guess what I would say, when you look at between the 6% rebate on payroll expenses versus the 1% project facility expense, I've seen most people go for the payroll rebate. Especially, a lot of people pretty much stack quality jobs and ITAP. So that's the thing, is you can stack some of these incentives. I would say, I think the only one on our list is quality jobs or the enterprise zone. You can either get either or. You can't get both collectively. But other than that, I think that's really the only two that you can't get together.
And I think part of it is it's just going to depend on your business. If as we were discussing earlier, if I've got to put up a big facility and I've got to put a bunch of equipment on the ground in order to do whatever it is my business is going to do, I'm going to be interested in that industrial tax exemption. I'm going to be looking at that one really hard. If on the other hand, I don't have really that investment necessarily, but I'm going to be able to put a bunch of people to work because that's what's going to generate this revenue for me, then quality jobs is going to be the area you're going to want to focus on.
Absolutely.
Try and maximize your benefit there.
Yeah, and that's really the big key. These incentives, it's definitely depending on the type of business you are. Quality jobs might be incredible for one type of business and not be as lucrative for another. I mean, enterprise zone might be more lucrative for a business over quality jobs. And I think the biggest way to note that is one, like Mr. Tim said earlier, was the job creation component. I mean, that is the big factor that the state looks at is how many new jobs are being created, are these jobs maintained? I would say, when considering which incentive to pursue, the biggest thing to note is, is it likely that you'll create the number of new jobs required, and can you make those jobs be maintained? And that's full-time new jobs. So it's not factoring in construction jobs or any kind of vendor service and whatnot. But I mean, for the most part, these incentives they can benefit any type of business, whether you're small, mid-size, large. I think a big misconception, and not so much, I don't think the state's done necessarily a good job at like changing that narrative, is a lot of people look at these incentives and think you have to be a big business and that's only ones you can, that's the only way you can get them. And I think while yes, the big businesses tend to be the ones to get it, it's really because they're aware of it. They have entire departments of people that pursue these incentives, work on these incentive packages. So it's just more common. Smaller businesses, they might not be as lucrative as the large business incentives, but they're still absolutely eligible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one point we made on the quality jobs point that I'd just like to review again. The fact that it's cash paid is significant. One of the tricks, of course, for tax credits is you have to have a tax liability to offset that tax credit. And without that, it may just go on the books. So, okay, well, I've got a tax credit for when I have to pay some taxes. And federal government and others have a lot of incentives to help you reduce your tax liability. So it may be a little bit down the road, but for you to get that benefit. But in the case of the quality jobs, that's going to help you meet the payrolls. It's going to help you pay the bills that you have right now. And so I think that's the significant part in that. Restoration tax abatement. I have had at least a little bit of experience in this one. One of the what this is about, of course, is renovating buildings in certain districts that then provides for a tax abatement. In this case, the property tax abatement on those improvements. So the first step in this process is identifying where those restoration tax abatement areas might be. From the program's description, in economic development districts, downtown development districts, historic districts, and opportunity zones are the places where these credits can apply. So the first step is, okay, am I locating my business within one of those districts? And since I'm a little more familiar with Morgan City, I'll talk about the historic district. So the historic district is one area that could potentially provide you with the opportunity to take an older facility, an older building, renovate it, and then avoid the property taxes on those. So the first step would be to find out what are the boundaries of the historic district. Now, we might make an assumption that, oh, that's downtown. Yeah, that's easy. That's all downtown Morgan City. Not necessarily. The historic district boundaries are very well defined. They were decided many years ago. But they were very well defined, and so you need to know that particular part. Now, we don't have a downtown development district, but we do have opportunity zones, and that would be another area that might apply.
Absolutely, no. I mean, I honestly think Mr. Tim said it perfectly. Morgan City and Franklin are the two that have established Main Street downtown programs. Those are the ones that I know of that take more advantage of any of the other municipalities. Really, the only thing that I would probably add is, in addition to businesses, if your home falls in those areas too, you can also qualify for the restoration tax abatement on your home. But I mean, really, that's honestly the only thing I would add on top of that is.
And what we're talking about, we're abating the property taxes, if you will, on the improvements. So it's the total cost, the materials, the labor and all that goes into, okay, I bought a building, for $20,000 and I had to spend $225,000 to get it into condition to satisfy my business needs or whatever, and it's within a district. Well, then that increment, that $225,000 that I spent, is what I avoid the property taxes on, and I think it's for a 10-year abatement, I believe, in this particular case. So you get a 10-year abatement of those property taxes. The property taxes on the original $20,000, you would continue to pay that, but obviously that's a whole lot less than the larger amounts. Opportunity zone. And I'm gonna defer to you a little bit on this one, Evan, but as I understand it, the Opportunity Zone, which was established, that Opportunity Zone program was established in the Tax Cut Act of 2017. There is an Opportunity Zone in Morgan City and in Berwick that I saw on the map, but I didn't see one in Franklin.
Right, there's actually not one in
Yeah.
Franklin, there is one in Baldwin, and I think Jeanerette, but I think the portion of Jeanerette that falls in St. Mary is included in that, even though I think the feds consider that Opportunity Zone entirely in Iberia Parish. But
Yeah, so it would be worthwhile looking at that too, looking at the map. In a very general sense, I'll describe it as 6th Street to the river in Morgan City, and then south of Highway 90 or 182, I guess, to the intercoastal, basically all the way out to the industrial area. So definitely includes most of the industrial area of Morgan City. The only part I thought was a little curious is one side of the highway is, one side of the highway is not. So,
Yeah.
I'm talking about 182. So, worth looking at though, in saying, okay, hey, what other opportunities
Absolutely.
might apply here in the Opportunity Zone? And because there's also some federal opportunities there. So definitely take a look at that and familiarize yourself with that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one I would say, like Mr. Jim said, it was passed in 2017 under the Trump administration. I think there was always talk as politics has gotten so messy, so to speak, that would it still exist, under the current administration? And honestly, I think I have not heard any changes being made to that program. If anything, I think it's potential that the program will be expanded.
I would agree with
I think really this administration has really shown an interest in revitalizing rural communities, where Opportunity Zones are really found in these rural communities that have a huge impact to revitalize an entire area. It's with a pretty generous benefit.
Absolutely. We don't. I don't know that we're enough focused on maybe some of those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I really would like to see more, greater taken advantage of. I think when they came out, there was a lot of confusion as to it's a new program, what do you have to do, what are the processes to, qualify. And now I think that the conversations, it's kind of simmered down than it used to be. But I will say, the interest, especially for new opportunities coming in, Opportunity Zones are still a major draw. So in my case, when I meet with prospective businesses looking to relocate or expand into St. Mary Parish, the Opportunity Zone areas are usually where I point to them first, because it's the most benefit that they stand to gain.
Yeah, and we're really primarily talking about the benefits that are established by the Louisiana Department of Economic Development. But let's talk about the Opportunity Zone a little bit. I have some general ideas about it, and you can certainly add any further understanding that you have. But one of the opportunities that's provided for in Opportunity Zones that are again established by the federal government, if I were to sell my business or sell some other valuable assets that then created a large capital gains to myself, one of the opportunities I have, you keep saying opportunities, but it's for the Opportunity Zone, one of the opportunities I have to defer the taxes on that gain is to take either all or a portion of those funds and invest it into an Opportunity Zone business. And if I do that, I defer the gain on that gain for some time period. And the longer I hold that investment in that Opportunity Zone business can reduce the potential tax liability that I might have. So who obviously who does that benefit? Well, number one, it benefits the investor who may be, okay, well, I don't want to write that big old check to Uncle Sam. I want to do something with that money that would maybe earn me a return. I have an idea for a business, or I have an idea of joining with somebody in a business. and that business happens to be located in an opportunity zone, then here's an opportunity to benefit both, And so, in a very general sense, I don't know that I would want to go far off into the weeds, more so than that, but just say that there's an opportunity out there.
Absolutely. Now, honestly, like you said, I think that the biggest thing is it's a win-win. I mean, it's I guess, people or entities can win through the Opportunity Zone program. And I'm optimistic to see what type of expansion of the program it stands to happen. I honestly think that this is one of the few programs that the federal government has really dedicated for rural revitalization. This is one that I believe Louisiana as a state had one of the largest number of opportunity zones in the nation. So it's really attractive to outside investment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really want to see more entities taking advantage of it. And I think that if we can do a better job, I guess, at identifying those and publicizing those so much more, I think the full benefit could be understood. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is the benefit. It's a waiting game.
Right.
You stand to get a higher benefit if you wait longer.
Right.
So I think that might be one of the drawbacks. But at the end of the day, if you look what you stand to gain after however much time.
Right. I mean, if I've got this large gain, I mean, one, I'm going to celebrate it, and then number two, my next question is, okay, how can I best invest this for the best rate of return that I can imagine with it, and so yeah, maybe I'm not taking my whole, I'm going to make up a number here, I'm not taking my whole $1 million and going over here, but maybe I'm taking 100,000 of that million and say, you know what, I'm going to put this one in tax exempt bonds, but this 100, we'll see what I can turn that into, or that 200, whatever the number, just making up numbers here, but what portion of it can I, and perhaps that person has an altruistic motive, but maybe they just say, well, hey, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. And so there's still that opportunity there. So
that's the benefit of opportunity zones. You can have whatever your motivation is, you stand to gain from that.
Yeah, and hopefully the community benefits from it as a result. All right. Let's talk about the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program, another state program. So we're back with LED, with Louisiana Economic Development. To me, this one operates very similar to the SBA.
Mm-hmm.
Their loans, a lot of the terms and so forth will look identical. It starts with the bank. So if for whatever reason the bank maybe said, hey, you're not 100% candidate for my for my bank, but if we can qualify you for this guarantee, then I can fund you fully. And so, we're talking about, and I remember seeing this on the website, anywhere from $10,000 to $1.5 million. Well, I don't know if the $10,000 is probably worth the paperwork, but certainly, it's certainly worth looking at if you need a few $100,000 on up to seeing what that benefit were. I think the biggest drawback or the biggest hangup I see on SBA loans and these small business loan guarantees is you have to have equity in that business, and that's probably the biggest challenge. So my example earlier of the business that's making a profit but maybe has a cash flow need is a perfect example
Absolutely.
of one that would benefit from it, because one, if they're making a profit, they may have the equity they need, they just don't have the cash or the cash flow that they need in order to, so this allows for the expansion of their business.
Absolutely.
Frankly, another big use of SBA loans that I've seen over my career, you got two partners that started out and they have a successful business, and one of them is older and ready to retire or needs to move away or whatever, and the one that's left behind needs to be able to figure out how to buy them out. That is a legitimate use for that. Of course, they want to add jobs. You want to expand the business. Those are always the buzzwords you want to use in applying for these. But there is that opportunity. So if you can meet the equity requirements, which generally is about 20%. Well, we left off talking about the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program. I mean, there again, it is an opportunity for those businesses. Well, I know where I was going to go with that was what the guarantee means. Okay, what that means is that the bank is still loaning you the money. The entity, either SBA or in this case LED, is guaranteeing it. So if for some reason the loan never gets paid off, the bank's risk is mitigated by virtue of that. So because of that, they're able to perhaps be a little more aggressive in their loan criteria. And number two, perhaps charge you a better interest rate because they have less risk. That's what the program is all about.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty straightforward. I mean, there's really not much to add on that. I think the biggest thing too is to note is since it's the governments aren't allowed to compete with banks, and that's really what this is. It's not supposed to replace the bank. It's supposed to kind of be if you can't go through the traditional lending process, this is your alternative. Obviously, if you do get accepted and you can go through the traditional lending process, that's preferred, so to speak.
So definitely worth looking at when you're trying to, if you're thinking about either one, establishing a business or perhaps expanding your business. Look at whether or not, I mean, one, I guess if you have enough finance, if your finances are of a good enough condition that the bank is willing to loan you money, well then you just go to the bank and get that loan. But if they're hesitant and you may not meet their criteria, then perhaps ask, well, what about a loan guarantee? Would you be willing to help me pursue either a LED loan guarantee or an SBA loan guarantee? And I think that's the approach to take on that. All right, next is the STEP grant, and Evan, I'll let you kick that one off if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and this program, is largely stems from the SBA as well. Basically, this program is designed to help Louisiana small businesses to generate new export revenue or create and retain jobs that result from sales to foreign markets. Basically, if you're eligible to this program, you can be reimbursed for certain expenses, trade missions. I'm trying to think of another example. Export training workshops, and really just any activity that's involved in shipping your good from the U.S. to a foreign market. So basically, the program offers a 90% reimbursement fee on eligible expenses. So, for example, here's a list of eligible expenses that I've found. Trade show expedition booth fees, and that's virtual or in person. I would imagine they added the virtual part in the last couple of years or so. Trade mission fees, virtual and in person. Export training courses and workshops. U.S. Department of Commerce fee services. Travel-related expenses such as airfare, lodging, meals, and marketing materials and media to promote your exports. This is it's all defined through SBA. So SBA kind of sets out the terms, and then LED is sort of the facilitator of the program. So like I said earlier, the program offers a 90% reimbursement rate, but the max I think you can get is $7,500 per company. So when you're applying for this and you're determining what do you want to count towards the reimbursement of it, that cap is $7,500. It's also through a calendar year. So the programs are usually awarded in September of each year, and then again, you can apply for it again the following September, so on and so on. But $7,500 will be your cap on those list of eligible expenses. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Now, I would just add that if one, because we're talking about exporting, definitely involve Port of the Morgan City Harbor Terminal District or the Port of West St. Mary in your planning for that. Because one, there's a package of incentives that are available to them that might also lead to, for example, and just one that just comes to mind. If there's a need that the port would have to accommodate your export business, the port has the opportunity to go out and get a piece of equipment, build an extension to the wharf, any of those kinds of things. And look, the state has reoccurring funds for those programs. So it's important that they need to be your partner. You're going to want them to be your partner in this type of operation. The beauty of it is the Port Priority Program, which has funded several projects in St. Mary. It's a 90-10 program. So 90% of the funds can come from the state, 10% is the local investment. So that's how wharves get built. That's how container offloading equipment and cranes and those kinds of things. That's how, and perhaps your business is not just in St. Mary, maybe it's in some other locations. All of those ports have those opportunities.
Absolutely.
So make them a partner in any of these discussions.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm glad you brought up the port, Mr. Tim, because one thing that especially the Port of Morgan City, because the Port of West St. Mary, I don't believe they have the designation. They might utilize the Port of Morgan City, but the Port of Morgan City uses the Foreign Trade Zone, which is honestly, I believe in Louisiana, it's Port of Morgan City, Port of South Louisiana, and Port of New Orleans are the only three in the state that I believe have that designation, which is a pretty lucrative designation for foreign markets. Especially where this program comes into play, the Port of Morgan City, I could not emphasize enough to utilize them as a partner. Not to mention, just the waterway access, both of the Port of West St. Mary and the Port of Morgan City. Last I saw, I think the Port of Morgan City accessibility to 34 states in the United States, 34 states, and then pretty much the Caribbean and South America. Yeah. So I would highly recommend the Port of Morgan City as a partner with this program as well.
All right, and then lastly, we had veteran initiatives, and there's quite a few opportunities there. So one, if you're a business person and you've served your country, the state of Louisiana, it's important to them. They want to participate. They want you to expand your business, and they want to be a partner in that. So they've got some initiatives that they offer. Just from my general knowledge, things like putting you on preferred list with state procurement offices and things like that. Evan, you may add to some of the incentives that they offer.
Yeah, and honestly, that's really what I would highlight too is, if you're a veteran-owned business, you have a greater access to contracting and purchasing through the state government opportunities. So, for example, for your small business, learning at less than $30,000, for example, the state agencies can waive the required additional quotes the certified company would submit if the quote is reasonable. Again, state agencies, they're encouraged to get quotes from veteran-owned small businesses as well. So, for example, if there is a project that's going on and you're a veteran-owned construction company, for example, there's a certain point system that they do to evaluate these contracts, and each business that has a veteran-owned certification get more X amount of points towards their application. So it helps those veteran-owned businesses, especially if you're coming back from serving and you're reacclimating back to civilian life. You have that opportunity to get that work, have that constant flow of work, and then encourage to hire more veterans to work under you. So, for example, I mentioned the evaluation points. So 12% of the total evaluation points can be added to your RFP that you submit. So here's veteran ownership. That's just basically saying 51% of the business has to be owned by a veteran. Principal place of business needs to be in Louisiana, at least. So the big key factor, and I guess we've kind of talked about this in a lot of instances with employees, while there's no job creation requirement, they require you to have 50 full-time employees have the designation. Independently owned and operated, that you are not dominant in your professional field. So this is, again, towards small businesses. If it's a veteran-owned multinational corporation, this would not be eligible under this program. Again, the residency, the business, and I believe the owners have to be domiciled in Louisiana. And then same thing, you have to be a U.S. citizen to qualify. Now, I would say that this is a program for veteran-owned businesses, but I believe there's another program that's relatively new for disabled veterans. So not only could you qualify for this, but there's also a separate certification that if you're a disabled veteran-owned business, you can qualify for as well. Which I'm not sure on the specifics off the top of my head, but I can definitely provide that information to Ms. Mancuso as well. Yeah, I mean that's. Yeah.
I think the bottom line on that is if you are a veteran, you're in business, speak up. I think
Absolutely.
there very well may be an opportunity for you, depending on the nature of your business and so forth, but for you to perhaps get some preferences in some of the contracting, if that's the the area that you want to pursue. That kind of covers the programs that we thought we would outline. There's a lot of them, but as we've mentioned on a number of occasions, some are going to apply to some businesses, others won't, that type of thing. Educate yourself. The LED is a great resource. If LED is intimidating to you, Evan Boudreaux is not. He's here, he lives here, he works here. That's his job. Your tax dollars are paying him, so be sure and take advantage of that and let it help you steer you in the right direction.